Hello there, and welcome to Unleash the Network podcast, a podcast that aims to educate and inspire you by sharing stories from African Leadership Academy alumni and Mastercard Foundation scholars who have gone on to make a positive impact in their communities and promote values of leadership, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Sia, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Renatus. Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
How have you been?
I've been well. All has been good. How about yourself?
I've been good too. What's keeping you busy nowadays?
A lot. Just ended the semester. I'm a student at Georgetown University, so just ended the semester doing some research currently on the African geopolitics, specifically on South Africa. And we've also been doing summer internships here, there, and everywhere, living the ALA alumni lifestyle of keeping busy, doing research, and adding transformation in one way or another.
And it's good that you've been doing research on geopolitics in South Africa because a lot has been going on that side.
Oh yeah, quite a lot.
What are your thoughts on what's going on, especially with the entanglement between South Africa, China, and Russia?
I think you characterized it correctly. It's an entanglement. It's a little bit of a dilemma. I think South Africa has been dabbling in two places, and there's gonna become a time where it has to decide. And I think we're getting closer to that, right? Because for a long time, especially for a really long time, South Africa has been an ally of the West, and as far as the apartheid regime is concerned, and as far as some of the neoliberal policies that have been passed ever since 1994, you do see that that Western influence in South Africa. And also we know that in as much as we love and respect Nelson Mandela, but he's the hero of the West. But when you look at the liberation struggle in South Africa, that was funded by Russia. Mandela was trained by Russia. Cuba, China has also been helping. You also see left-wing parties such as the EFF saying, if we can, we are casting our bet and our lot on the Russian side. So now you find South Africa right in the middle, where you have an ANC government that has past entanglements with the West, specifically America, but also owes allegiance to Russia, the country that helped South Africa gain independence. So you find yourself in a situation where you don't want to upset both parties, but you also want to be clear on where you stand. So you see South Africa saying, well, we're a non-aligned country. We don't align with either. But when the ICC says we've issued a warrant, if Russia comes to South Africa, arrest him, we're like, no, we can't do that. Why? Because we all past allegiances. It's a very interesting topic that I'd like to delve into later, or even now. But there's a lot there. There's a lot there.
It sounds like there's really a lot. And I mean, as how you said earlier, I mean, ultimately South Africa has to decide.
Of course. And that's the difficult part, because I think where we're standing right now, you can't tell what exactly South Africa is going to decide, because it's not like there are no implications when you choose Russia versus the US. And again, we're seeing in the world right now that the axes are changing. So we're moving from a world where America is the one major undisputed global power, and now we're seeing perhaps Russia with China together, BRICS especially, introducing a new block of really powerful countries that could actually challenge American power and American hegemony. You're seeing with Saudi Arabia deciding that they don't want to sell oil with the dollar anymore. You're seeing a lot of countries de-dollarizing. So it's almost as if America might be a sinking Titanic. We're not sure. Might be a sinking Titanic. So it makes the decision difficult for South Africa to say, well, if we cast your lot with us, we're not sure how it's going to look like in 10 years, right? But then you also look on the Russian side and you say, well, Putin is also very questionable, unpredictable. So you don't know if he'll be the strong ally that he's promising to be right now. And also, coming back to Africa, BRICS is also a very interesting thing, because now it can be viewed as a threat to African unity. Because now, if BRICS come up with a currency, what does that look like for SADC? right? If BRICS starts trading amongst themselves, what does that look like for the African Union? What does that look like for the Africa Free Trade Agreement? When South Africa now says, oh, I think we can trade freely with India, Brazil, and all of that, and we can make that happen. But then when Zambia wants to buy our corn, all of a sudden there are now tariffs. It's a little bit more difficult. So I think it's a layered topic.
Wow. Sounds like this has got you digging and reading a lot.
Oh, I've been reading a lot, and there's still a lot to read. There's still a lot to read. Like I said, it's an entanglement. It's a little dilemma.
And I think ultimately that is what universities should do, right? They should help students work on things that affect their communities directly, which is something that you're doing right now with your research.
Mm. I think, and especially when you're studying things like political science and you're studying them outside of the continent, but your topic and your focus is the continent, you do have to be very intentional about taking classes, doing research, and curating your education in a way that speaks to the place of your passion and the place that you're passionate about. Right now, of course, I'm taking and doing research a lot about the Middle East region, doing a lot about North Africa, a lot about global politics, the global political economy. But ultimately, for me, the place of my interest is Africa. So at the end of every class, at the end of every research question, I'm going to ask myself, how does Africa fit into this? How does this help Africa? Where does Africa stand in this? So it can be environmental sustainability, it can be the energy crisis, it can be anything. My ultimate question is, yes, we may talk about this country, this region, this topic, that topic. At the end of the day, I want to know, how does Africa factor into that?
You seem so passionate about this.
I mean, I'm an ALA graduate. We don't really have a choice. I'm part of the 6,000. I'm part of the 6,000.
I'm really glad you are. I'm really glad you are, because we need more young people taking up space in terms of, thinking about the politics in the continent and what's happening in the continent and how is that directly affecting young people, because we are the future of the continent.
And even that, are we the future though?
Well, that can be debated, but as of now, I think we are.
I think we're the present. Because right now, if we wait until the future to start doing the things that need to be done, we have very old presidents, and I'm not going to mention names, but some of our countries are headed for a really dark trajectory. So we can't wait till the future when it's already too dark to rescue. We got to start now in little ways. So I say we're the present of Africa, the future, of course, but we got to start it now.
Oh, yeah. Do you see yourself taking up office anytime soon?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it?
I think it is.
I would say ultimately, but I want to create change without office, because I don't think that office enables you. I mean, it may give you resources, but I think there's space and there's the ability to create and enforce change without office, and that's what I want to do. And if that ultimately lands on my alley, then yes, sure. But I'm interested in more grassroots stuff. And then if the office comes up at some point, then of course. And ultimately, again, the goal is change. The goal is transformation, the greater good of Africa. But in as far as will I be Madam President at some point, I don't know. We'll have to see about that.
Yeah, Lord Lumumba once said that the problem with most Africans is that we assume for you to be able to bring about change, you have to be in office.
Precisely. And the thing is, people get into office with the expectation that the office empowers them to create change. But the most effective and most impactful leaders are the ones who are doing without office. The person selling vegetables and tomatoes on the side of the road, they're actually employing somebody. They're actually the people creating jobs, not a president, not a minister of finance, not a minister of economic planning. Yes, they provide, again, assuming that they're good and effective, they provide the trajectory and the plan, but the most change is done on an individual level, is done by communities, is done by students. The government, I would say, even right now, we have a lot of reactionary governments in Africa. So I would say, like Lumumba is definitely right. the people, the communities, grassroots. That's where change happens.
So what medium are you gonna be using? Is it gonna be entrepreneurship, activism, or what is it gonna be?
I'm a little bit I'm a little bit everywhere in a sense. I am definitely passionate about social innovation. Right now I'm working on a design thinking curriculum for girls. So more so bringing together an entrepreneurial curriculum and a gender a women empowerment focus to really empower women to be able to start enterprises and to be able to start as small as braiding someone's hair to as big as, I don't know, starting a recycling company, right? That's how small we go and that's how big we go. But use that one. I'm sure you know about the gender-based violence going on in South Africa and the rate at which it's just terrible. So using entrepreneurship, social innovation, and social thought around women empowerment, feminism, and using all of that together to empower women and to cause social transformation. So there's a sense that I'm looking into entrepreneurship, right? And I'm also looking into activism and bringing those two together because I don't think they need to be separated, especially when we're dealing with societies that not only suffer from unemployment and poverty, but also really huge social ills. And I think that you can trace some of those social ills to the poverty, and some of that poverty is connected to those social ills. So if we can bring together two vehicles of entrepreneurship and social transformation and activism and advocacy and channel them and package them together, I think that would be a good way to tackle a lot of the issues in our communities.
Couldn't agree more. Because
Mm.
I think to bring about change, you either need individuals who are entrepreneurs or they're involved in politics. And with politics, you're speaking about activism, advocacy, as how you said, and
Precisely.
working on policies and stuff. And I think it's good that you're working with people on the grassroots level because those are the ones who are directly affected.
Precisely. I'm working with high school girls, especially teen mothers. There's a whole tendency in Africa of giving up on teen mothers, being like, well, once you fall pregnant and you're a girl, well, your future is over. Well, not necessarily. I mean, after you give birth and your child is okay, you are almost given a second chance to try again, right? So those are the people that I'm working with to say, well, we don't want you in a couple of years to graduate from high school and then wait on the government to give you a job, because that will put you in a situation where you find yourself perhaps with an older abusive man. Not saying all men are abusive. I don't want to be canceled, but find yourself in a situation, you're in an abusive situation. So now it's almost as if the poverty and the unemployment led you to a gender-based violence situation. Whereas when we package an entrepreneurial angle with the focus on your empowerment as a woman, with the focus of understanding your position and things that you can do, self-agency, that you can self-actualize, that then enables you to be able to tackle those two things. And I think that's more effective than going on a campaign to force the government to create jobs. I think that's more effective.
And speaking about education, I don't think there's any reason that justifies anyone taking education away from someone.
Precisely. Precisely.
It's like,
And also, in that sense, we should also, as young people, especially in Africa, move away from the idea of thinking that just because we are educated, someone has to give us a job. Like we are entitled to have a job from someone. It doesn't work that way. You are educated for you. That education was for you to help you think. Nobody is entitled to give you a job. It doesn't work that way.
but
You have the education, do something with it.
in a sense, you also understand where they're coming from, right? Because earlier in the days, education was meant to prepare you to work in the, you know, in the colonial
Yes.
factories and farms and everything else.
Mm.
And so right now we came with that mentality to the, to today. And now we're thinking, the moment I graduate, I need to get employment from the government. And it's funny enough because even the Tanzanian government right now, it's saying, you know what, the moment you graduate, go work for yourself, right? But
Yes.
unfortunately, the fact is that they had not prepared people for such. So right now, it's just the moment you graduate, expecting you're gonna get a job, and boom,
Mhm.
you have to employ yourself.
We really need to change the rhetoric around education. People need to understand that you get educated for you. In South Africa right now, I think there was a whole move about 10 years ago because we lacked a lot of engineers. Even right now, we still do. We don't have a lot of people in STEM. So we're like, go study engineering, go study engineering. Now we have a lot of unemployed engineers. I have two friends who are engineers and they're like, listen, we can't find jobs, we're going to be YouTubers. And that works fantastic for them. It works terrific for them. But I'm saying we are now in a situation where people get an education with the preparation of the job market. That shouldn't be the focus. The preparation should be, how do I self-actualize? That can be through a 9 to 5, but it can also be through entrepreneurship.
Couldn't agree more. And I'll advise people listening to this to go and watch Nyerere's video. It's available on YouTube, where he spoke about the meaning of education and the impact that education should have. Sia, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you very much for sharing what you have been up to, and good luck with, the projects that you're working on, and looking forward to the impact that you'll be creating. And hey, maybe one day you'll be the president of South Africa.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Thank you so much, Renatus.